This is Dan and Lexi from Dan Schultz Outdoors, reminding you to keep the adventures alive.
Hey y'all, I'm Johnny.
And I'm Colleen. And we're the Keel Quest. And we want you to keep the adventures alive. Cheers!
Hey, this is Darren from Ride Paddle Repeat, encouraging you to keep the adventures alive.
This is David from Beachley Ironworks saying keep the adventures alive.
Hey, Kevin with an A here. Keep the adventure alive.
Hi, I'm Dan Mayotte. Keep the adventures alive.
Hi, I'm Kevin Collin, the Happy Camper. Remember, keep the adventures alive. Awesome!
Woo, buddy! Shug here! Keep the adventures alive. I am.
Ethan here, the Avid Outdoorsy Guy, reminding you to keep the adventures alive.
We're John and Aaron.
Keep the adventures alive.
Hey everyone, it's Kylan from Lure of the North, and I encourage you to keep the adventures alive.
This is Sky North telling you, keep the adventures alive. And now on with the show.
Hey, well, Happy New Year's, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of CanoeHound'S Outdoor Adventure Show, a show that brings you a lot closer to the great outdoors. My name is Dennis, also known as Canoehound, and you know what? If you're here tonight and you're back from the past, thanks very much for joining us. It's always good to be into a new year, a new season. And, well, not a new season, but you know what I mean? A new season after Christmas, that type of thing. And the holidays are behind us now, right? So hopefully we're going to have a great 2022. I hope everybody has had a healthy and safe holiday season with all that stuff that's going on out there. All the nastiness has returned, right? Yeah, it's something that we're all shaking our heads at. We're not looking forward to. Anyways, for anybody that might be new here tonight, thanks very much for tuning in. We are live here every Tuesday evening, so feel free to join us at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And every week we got some sort of great topic or a great guest on the show that we will bring you all kinds of information on and do a little bit of learning all at the same time, right? Got a few things to get out of the way before we get in with tonight's topic. Just want to say hi to everybody that I can see populating the chat over there, a bunch of channel members and stuff like that. Hello, 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 and welcome. First of all, just want to say to our sponsors, thank you very much for all your support that you've been bringing us. Sponsors like Algonquin Outfitters, who last year, for the new year, celebrated their 60th anniversary in business. Great company. If you're ever heading Algonquin Way or Algonquin Parkway, be sure to go over there, check out, get some gear, get some support, get some some rentals, whatever it is that you need around the park there. Make sure you stop in and check out Algonquin Outfitters. Also, our good friends over at Kid Products, makers of the Kid Twig Stove and Reflector Oven. And now they have a new, I believe it's a titanium pot, a 750 milliliter titanium pot that is Really cool. It's got handles and a bail. I've actually got one, and it's not down here with me, so I can't show you. Actually, I think I can show you. I might have a quick picture of it here under my listing. Here we go. It was from last week, our last show when we had a prize, but this is the new Kid Products titanium pot. Very cool. It's got handles that you can't see on there, but there are handles on the other side. Comes with a lid and a nice carry bag. Check them out at kidproducts.com if it's something that may be of interest to you, or if you're in the market for something like that. Also like to thank Hunter and Harris Paddles, longtime supporter, I can say now. They've been with us since the beginning of the season, and they are makers of fine quality handcrafted paddles. Mine are made of cherry, and they are absolute gems. Hard to put in the water for the first time, but once you do, I'll tell you, you'll want to dip them all the time. This one here is really exciting for me. Just want to let you know that we do have a new channel supporting sponsor, and that would be none other than Novacraft Canoes. I have personally paddled Novacraft Canoes. I have a couple of different brands, but I've personally paddled Novacraft Canoes, wow, for well over 25 years. I started out with an 18-foot Voyager, which was a nice, big, sturdy Royal Light canoe that held me, the family, the dogs, all our gear, and it was a great piece of equipment. And then as things started phasing down, I shifted over to 16-foot Prospectors in Royal X and Royal Light, and I currently have a 16-foot in Royal Light, and I absolutely love my Novacraft Prospectors. So if you're ever in the market for a canoe, by all means, do check out Novacraft Canoes. They make some beautiful, beautiful canoes. So welcome aboard for them. Let's see here. Before the Christmas break, we celebrated 2021 with our 2021 season show. It was a good time. We had none other than Ranta Claus was on with us. Yes, Mike Ranta was on. Kevin Callan, Camper Christina, and a whole host of others. And we really had a great evening of festive cheer. And you know what? Even though Christmas is gone, if you haven't watched it, go back and check it out, because there were an awful lot of good times and a lot of good laughs on the show. And you know what? Go check it out. It's, you can just thumb through it type of thing if you want to. And by all means, I'm sure that you'll enjoy it. And you know what? It'll maybe bring back some Christmas memories from a couple of weeks ago. So you can take care of all that. Final numbers are in. A few weeks back, we had a Kevin Callan birthday roast, and at that time, we actually had these decals that we were selling and trying to raise money for Project Canoe. Well, I'm happy to say that with the support of so many of you who actually purchased one of these decals, we are donating, and I'll be doing that this week, $200 to Project Canoe. We didn't quite make it to the $200 mark, but I'm just going to top it up to make it an even $200. This goes towards getting an underprivileged youth the opportunity to get back into the backcountry and enjoy the things that we really enjoy. So to all of you who bought one of these commemorative stickers and maybe put them on your water bottle, by all means, thank you very, very much. Your support is greatly appreciated. It was something that Kevin really wanted to do. He said, if you're going to poke fun at me, I want you to do it for a reason. And it was a good reason, and it went off quite well. So thanks again for your support. This one's a fun one for me. Over the last couple months, you've all heard me talking about this big wicked canoe trip that we had back in August up in the West Spanish Forest. Well, last week, over the Christmas holidays, I finally had the opportunity to get right here in front of this computer and do some editing. And episode 1 of my West Spanish Forest canoe trip is actually live. I posted that last week. And for those of you that watched it, number 2 is coming out tomorrow. But for anybody that's watching the show tonight, if you look in the description right here below, you'll see right there, you'll see that I have the links to episode 1 and 2. 2 is going to post tomorrow, but you can watch it. You can get a sneak peek. And to anybody that's a channel member, you actually had really early privilege because you're a channel member. And basically, you got to watch it days before everybody else. So that's just one of the perks you get with being a Canoe Hound Adventures channel member. Thank you to all that are channel members. Your support is greatly appreciated. Just helps pay for all this stuff that's going on here, right? So that's great. If anybody would like to become a member, 13 cents a day. You can become a channel member for as little as 13 cents a day. And like I say, it just really helps offset the cost of producing this show. And, I just went through a whole whack of cash trying to get my internet working. Hopefully I'm all clear tonight, because I think I may have things resolved finally. And that's a big relief for sure. upcoming, just to let you know, follow me on Facebook at Canoehounds Outdoor Adventure Show, and I will keep you up to date as to what we have coming up on the show as far as guests and topics are concerned. Just a few that are coming down the line here. We've got Ray Goodwin. He's sort of like the Kevin Callan or Cliff Jacobson of Europe, of the UK. He's going to be on in a couple weeks here. Another channel, one that I really enjoy, called River Kings. These guys are down in South Carolina or Georgia, down that area anyways. And they do a lot of whitewater kayaking and stuff like that. So that's going to be a fun show as well. We'll let you know when all that's all ready to go, and just stay in tune with the Facebook channel. And then two more things before we get going with the guests tonight. If you have any hot topics or guests you'd like to see on the show, drop me an email at canoehound@gmail.com. I will just drop that on screen here for you. And you know what? I'll try to make it happen. We have a lot of requests. I have a lot of tenders out, actually, to a lot of potential guests, just waiting to hear back from them. So once I hear back from them, we get them locked in, and then we're going to have some good shows in the future here, hopefully. And then also, if you have any questions for myself or our guest tonight, over there in the chat, please put the word question in capital letters and then your question. I'm going to do my darndest again tonight to try and stay on top of it, but I'll tell you now, I'm a one-man show. A lot of stuff slips by, but if I get the opportunity to get it up here, I'll post it up here, or wait until after 8 o'clock and I'll invite a few of you up to come on and ask questions. So that's probably the best way to do it. So babble. That's all over with. Now let's get on with tonight's topic. Tonight's topic almost didn't happen. I almost didn't have the show tonight just because I kind of caught behind the 8 ball. Been suffering a bit of an injury. A lot of things going on, with the holidays and stuff like that. But somebody come up with the idea for me, and I made it happen today. Thanks to our guests that are in the basement, because they agreed to join last second, short notice. But nonetheless, we're still going to have a good quality show for you. Tonight, we'll be talking about planning your backcountry adventures for 2022. We'll be discussing what we'll be discussing. You'll be taken across the board pretty much. We could be talking about winter camping. We could talk about canoeing, kayaking, hiking, backpacking, what have you, right? A lot of these things will be able to be used across the whole spectrum. But you know what? It's all useful information that you can use or not use. It's up to you. Joining me tonight, first we have from Voyager Tripper, we have Michaela Ferguson, who's a popular blogger, Instagrammer, and she has a fantastic ever-growing canoe tripping resource on her website at www.voyagertripper.com. Hi, Michaela. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, thanks.
Good. Back in Southern Ontario from California.
Yes. Yeah, I've been here for 3 weeks now, and it's been cold but good.
Yeah. When are you heading back up?
On Saturday. I'll be back to California.
Is it like, I can't wait, or it's like,
I was really excited to come out here. Now I'm pretty excited to go back, though.
Sure.
It doesn't help that where I am is like 20 degrees right now. And here, -10.
Awesome. All righty. So, and our next panelist to join me tonight, he's been a regular on the show. He's known for his informative YouTube channel, Kevin Outdoors, and his most recent publication called Backcountry Eats. Please welcome to the live stream, Kevin Wright.
Hey, Dennis. Hey, Michaela. How you doing?
I'm okay. Just to let everybody know, sometimes if it takes a second for Kevin to answer, he's on about a 3-second delay because of his internet. So we just got to be patient with him, right?
Absolutely.
All right. And next we have another regular on the show. He's a backcountry adventurer. He does a lot of canoeing, some hiking. And his YouTube channel is Marty Morissette. Please welcome to the live stream, Marty Morissette. How you doing, Marty?
Unmute. Here we go. Hey, how are you, man?
Doing okay. I called you in the green room. I called you our Quebec correspondent.
There you go. I came, I was criticized before because I didn't cover enough Quebec rivers and all that. So I came prepared this time.
Cool. So we might be able to get a little information on what's going on in the Quebec area as well, because you know what, I had somebody on the show quite a long time ago, Jess from Rain Dance Bushcraft, and he was saying like he's not aware of any, like we have My CCR up here as a great resource, all kinds of like. Finding crown land is very easy. I guess it's not so easy over in Quebec.
Yeah, it's Yeah, it's a bit more challenging. We do have it's interesting you say that, because I brought like all the resources I have for Quebec in terms of like routes, trip reports you can find online that are really well detailed to do a lot of really fun stuff. And I actually pulled up to the Crownland website for the Quebec. It's all in French though for people, so you might have to Google translate a few things, but other than that, you should be able to find a couple of things.
Awesome. So you know what? Let's try and go by a bunch of different topics here, just to get us going. Kevin had sent me. Kevin's got an excellent video on trip planning, and he covers an awful lot in it there, in probably a lot shorter time than we're going to be spending on this whole topic tonight. But the one thing I wanted to talk about is when you're planning a backcountry trip, the goals you should have in your mind, things that you might be wanting to plan a trip around. Kevin, you want to take that one?
Sure. That's a really good question. I think one of the most fundamental things you can do is ask everybody that you're going with what their objectives are. If you have conflicting objectives, you're going to be at odds with one another pretty quickly. If one person wants to make miles and see that next lake, and the other person wants to fish all day, you've got an inherent conflict. So I think that's probably number one. And in my video, I talked a lot about commitment. A lot of trips don't happen. You need a certain level of commitment. It's not like the Marines or anything like that, but you need to commit yourself to going on a trip. And it's great to talk airy-fairy about your plans with potential partners, but at some point you have to sort of, I use the term lock in, get your buddies or whoever you're going with, lock in and commit. Otherwise you won't have a successful trip.
That's a big one, right? You always hear of people saying, yeah, my buddy bailed on us last minute. There's nothing worse than having somebody bail on you last
Those
second.
aren't my friends.
Yeah. Oh, those are your buddies.
I said they're not my friends anymore.
Oh yeah. I don't know if it's worse that they bailed before the trip or during the trip, right? Yeah. What do you think, Michaela? Like when it comes to having a goal in mind for planning a trip, what are the things that you look for when you're starting to plan a trip? Where do you start?
Well, I would say that there are two types of trips that I do. The one that's very, very focused on, like, I want to go far distances. I want to push myself. I want to achieve something either physically or work on a new skill. Those ones I tend to do on my own, just because then I can control a lot more of it and I can hit those goals. If I'm doing the trip with someone else, though, I usually bias towards whatever their objectives are. So I end up taking a lot of people who are somewhat new to backcountry camping on trips. So what exactly do they want to see? And then how can I kind of tailor the trip to ensure that they have a really positive first experience? When I'm going with people who are more, who are at my level, then we have the conversation like, what specifically do we want to see? And we ensure that we're on the same page around distances and how hard we want to push and how much time we want to spend at the campsite. But I would say those are kind of the three ways that I segment my canoe tripping or my backpacking, with my favorite kind of being the solo ones where I can really dictate the pace and the experience myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because all too often, if you have to really rely on the skill level of the people that you're with. I guess you're only as strong as your weakest link, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that how the saying goes? Kind of thing?
Yeah, and I find it really important that if I'm taking someone who is less experienced, that is my mindset going into it. Like, this is not the trip where I'm going to do crazy fast portages or like hit that extra lake. Like, I really start off the trip with, this is an experience for them, and I'm just happy to be there and in the woods. At the end of the day, as long as I'm outside, the goal has been achieved.
Right. So is there a pecking order, Marty? Is there a pecking order as far as when it comes to planning a trip? Where do you start? Do you just say, you know what, I want to do a canoe trip down the Des Moines River or whatever it might be? Where do you start?
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Lucky enough, it's funny, just to maybe to go back a little bit too with the people. For me, I've been tripping with my canoe partner, my adventure partner. We've been doing it, like, if you watch most of my videos, I'm always with Pierre. Like, him and I've been, so like, it's usually like we sit together and we kind of figure out what we want to do. And then some people may join our trip if they want to, like another party. But, him and I are pretty good at never belling on each other. So that helps a lot. And then in terms of the picking order, a lot of it comes down for like, you know, canoe trips. It's like, what do we want to do? Is it whitewater or flat? Those are the first two big answers. And last summer we jumped back into the rivers, so we're just kind of deep into wanting to just further our skills. So that's what we're, you know, depending on what we want to do. But like for us in the summertime, we try to do all the whitewater canoe trips when the water's warm, and then when it gets to fall, the shoulder seasons, we stay to the lakes, basically in the Crown Land. And then for backpacking in the wintertime, you know, it's always like, I guess it always comes down to your preference, right? So like for me, backpacking in the wintertime, it's all about peak bagging, it's called. So like trying to just do a bunch of summits, whatever we do. And then if that doesn't work out because we can't go to the States like right now still, we you know, we'll do like around here, there's Crown Land and there's opportunities to basically do the canoe routes that you would do usually in a canoe, but just cross the lakes by foot or on ski, right? We'll put with Polk sleds. So those are kind of like, for us, like this is always me and my canoe partner, we're pretty the same on that one. It's like whitewater, flat water, and then it's mountains or then flat ground for hiking. So we always go with that.
Yeah. Are you still doing a lot of the hiking these days? Because I notice a lot of your videos now seem to be focusing on the paddle.
Yeah. So, well, my entire life, it's always been like that because I live like in the Ottawa region and the Ottawa Rivers right here. It was always summertime. We paddle as much as we can back when I used to whitewater kayak. And then we always use the wintertime to go backpacking in the Adirondacks or the Whites in the Northeast. So that's what I've always done. So it's just the whole hiking thing for me the past 2 years because of the, you know what, and not being able to cross the border. It's really like put a big, like a book, like there's not that much hiking to be done. I find here loops wise for backpacking like there is in the States. So yeah.
Cool. And how nice is that? Like I know I too have a paddle partner that every year it's him and I, and it's, you know, and then other people add on to that, right? It's nice to have that one reliable, steady person that is always there and available for that type of thing. And you seem to be right on the same page all the time, right?
Yeah, well, and it just like, it's interesting because you build a kind of relationship that you know what to expect. You know, like there's a level of comfort when we go together that we can always expect, right? Like I know I won't have to teach him how to do anything, or if there's new skill, like that's nice to know where we're at, both of us, and we know how to push each other. Because like I'm a big fan. I much prefer going on trips with other people. Most people, I don't know if most people, but most of what we hear online on YouTube is people like to go on solo trips more. But for me, it's always been going with other people. So it's fun to just have that one person that's just committed like I am to just trying to go as much as possible. And that just makes it easier, if that makes sense.
Yeah. When you say paddle, like going with another person, does that mean sharing a canoe, or does that mean like solo paddling at canoes?
Yeah, typically due to just the canoes that we have, we've always tandem, Pierre and I. We've always tandem. Ideally, over time, as we kind of get, you know, buying like lighter canoes and stuff like that, there is something fun, especially because we both film. There is something fun about having your own canoe, but you know, there's also something interesting about sharing 16 feet with someone else.
Sure, yeah, no, that makes sense. How about yourself, Kevin? Are you you have a regular party that you usually canoe with?
I've been going with my buddy Todd quite a bit lately. We've done a couple trips up to Woodland Care.
Oh,
my mic got muted there. Yeah. Don't know where I got cut off, but yeah, my buddy Todd and I have been going quite a bit lately. Woodland Caribou a couple years ago and Quetico last year. I go with my wife and my kids quite a bit. I did more of that when the kids were younger. The kids have hit an age where they're not really into that, but I certainly love traveling with my wife, and I also like going alone too. So you know, I tend to mix it up. I think you have. You know, there's committed people. I call those tight groups. Like my wife isn't going to back out on me. Pierre's not going to back out on Marty.
Yeah.
That's a tight group. You trust them. You know that's going to happen. And then there's loose groups. People that you know, your old buddies from high school might want to go on a trip, and they invite you, and you're not really sure. And one of the ways to deal with that, and you were mentioning solo canoes. is to pack self-contained. Like there's a lot of efficiencies. I like to go with people because group gear can be shared. You can share a stove, you can share a tarp, you can share all kinds of stuff. But if you're not sure if someone's going to go with you, you can decide to go self-contained. Everybody brings their own stuff, their own food, and you're good to go.
Yeah, that's I'm trying to convince my canoe party to do that. You know, it's something that I think would work great, but they just don't see the value in it because they have to cook their own food, right?
Yeah, well, there's certainly something to the shared experience when you rotate meals or something. But I once ran into a bunch of sea kayakers in Lake Superior Provincial Park. Actually, I guess it was Puckasaw, and my buddy and I were hiking, and they were in sea kayaks. And every once in a while, we rendezvoused with them at a campsite. They just seemed to have the same itinerary as us, and there were 6 of them. And I said, "Wow, that's a really big group." He said, the guy replied to me, "Not really. We intended to have 10 members. 4 people backed out at the last minute. So that's a loose group, and you got to go self-contained if you don't, if you can't rely on folks showing up."
What do you do in the case where if you plan for maybe 4 people and then all of a sudden you have 2 extras that want to pop in last second, which is something that happened to me this past summer. We had 4 guys going, and before you knew it, we had 6 guys going, and like the 2 additional guys popped in after all the meal plans were all set. Everything is already set in stone, right? And then all of a sudden, 2 more people got thrown into the mix. In our case, what we did was said, well, you know what? You guys are self-sufficient for your own food and gear, right? It's like you're on your own trip, a tag along type of deal. Make sense?
Oh yeah, hard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That makes sense. Usually it's the other way around. You lose people, but this time here we picked up hitchhikers. So, well, not hitchhikers.
Well, especially if the food plan is really, I mean, you get to an age at some point and sharing a tent just kind of, it's not that fun anymore, right? So everybody usually has its own tent, kind of thing. And then it's really just the food that's not self-contained most of the time. And for me, like, honestly, like if you do it half, like I have my setup for when I go solo, which is very rare, or self-contained, call it. And then I have my setup for more groups, and it's not more work for me to pick this or that stove or that stove. Like if we decide to go last minute self-contained or last minute group it up, it doesn't, gear wise, it's not hard. Honestly, it's only the food that makes it challenging.
Yeah. Got a great comment here by Walt. He says 6 on an expedition canoe trip is too many, in my opinion. I almost agree with that because that was the case with our big trip, West Spanish Forest canoe route. We had traffic jams on portages. We had usually it's not like Algonquin where you go there and you don't know the people that are causing the traffic jam. You're tripping over your buddies out there, right? And sometimes too many is too many on a trip, right? Mm-hmm. So that's all I got to say.
6 boats is a lot. If you go tandem 3 boats, it's reasonable. But if you go solo 6 boats, it's a lot of boats.
Yeah. Well, we had 4 vessels, and that's because I wanted to paddle solo myself. So I stuck the other guy in his kayak, and he got the fight through that. So sorry, Rick, if you're watching. So when it comes to timeline, like we're talking right now, we're in the first week of January. We're talking about planning canoe trips and stuff. Is this too early to start planning? No?
Oh,
Why
it's
not,
right above the time.
Why not?
I think it depends on the kind of trip you want to do. But for the big ones, I start planning / dreaming / finding inspiration super early. Sometimes as soon as the paddling season ends in October. I'm like, okay, where am I going to go next year? A lot of the time it's just because I start planning a few different trips and then kind of narrow it down into the ones I'll actually do. That said, though, I do tend to do a lot of really last-minute trips as well, just because I have a very unpredictable work schedule, which is why I usually go solo, because I don't want to be that person that's like, sorry, guys, I know I committed, but now I'm working, so I can't go anymore. So those ones will be super last-minute. But for the other ones, there's a lot to, like, the permit system. If you're camping somewhere like that, you might have to book your campsites in February. So you don't want to be there, I think, February 2nd or early February, whatever the day is this year. You don't want to be there on February 2nd okay, but what campsites do I want? What's my route going to be? You want to have that all like ready and prepared so that as soon as it opens, you can just get everything booked. I guess if you're doing something a little bit more crownland, you don't necessarily need to be that prepared. Or if you have to coordinate with shuttles, like I definitely don't think it's too early.
Or what about the fact that, like, you know, a lot of people like to paddle in the provincial parks where you actually have to have reservations made for particular routes, particular lakes, campsites, and I guess that's getting to be a thing in Algonquin Park where they're going to start numbering the sites, and you have to actually book your site specific, right? So planning early like this is not too early to start planning because that's how you stay ahead of the guys that are going to go, crap, man, I can't get that site or I can't get that lake. Right?
Yeah, I would definitely say if you want to be somewhere like Killarney or Algonquin or any of the backpacking routes that are a little bit popular, even like along Lake Superior, those ones book out super quickly. I think 3 weeks before the start of February is a fine time to start looking at it.
Kevin, you really touched on that in your planning video that you have on your YouTube channel. What can you tell us about the planning early and the benefits to that?
There's tons of benefits. Right after the holidays for me is a great time to dream. Michaela cut out again. That's really weird. I'm not gonna touch my mouse. It seems to cut out as soon as I touch my mouse. Yeah, right after the holidays is a great time to dream about where you want to go and consider those dream destinations. Maybe you'll never get to them, but it's a great time to throw around some ideas, ask some friends. And then I've sort of noticed that by March, like if you want to do a big trip, like a 2-week trip with some friends, if you don't have it mostly nailed down by the end of March, you're probably not going to go. Through experience, I've just noticed that's kind of a cutoff. Sometimes you can cobble something together at the last minute, but if you want to do something unique and extra special and get those bookings, and also depends on where you work and whatever, but I work in an office with a lot of people. Book that time off with your boss as soon as you can, people in unionized environments have to get in line for booking, but I find that booking that time off is really, really critical to ensuring you're going to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is it the same type of case in Quebec where you are over there, Marty? Is it plan early or lose out?
The big trip, like not the big trips, the popular route, I would say yes. It's interesting. The Quebec line is a bit different. Like a couple of years ago, I did the Saguenay Fjords, which is I don't know how to say it. It's just a big fjords that goes right into the St. Lawrence, and it was a sea kayaking trip, and we paddled with like belugas and everything. It was insane. But that one, the day it opens, it books off. Like the day of registration, like whenever registration opens, everything gets booked off. There's backpacking around there, but it's a very sought after area. When it comes to more like, if you want to look like at the Three Sisters, for example, like Du Moine, Coulonge, de Noir, they're all on Crown land. Honestly, like if you're able to, the way I work it for me is if you're able to leave on a Wednesday and be deep in your trip by the weekend, it's a lot easier. If that makes sense. Like same thing if you go to Algonquin, if you can just be out of the popular spot by Friday, you're typically pretty fine if you're willing to jump a few lakes, right? So, but in Quebec, with the CEPAC, it's like instead of Ontario Parks, it's the CEPAC in Quebec. The more popular routes, they book out pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
But then there's the wildlife reserve of La Vérendrye, for example, which is north of where I'm at, just past Maniwaki on the way to like Val d'Or and all that, Témiscamingue. And they open for registration like on the first week of May. So like they're just last minute of a place for you to book your routes. Mm-hmm. It's just like, so everybody's last minute. And it's interesting over there too, which is a fantastic place to go. It's a beautiful place to go. I go there with the kids all the time. The portages are super small. You can go for 15 days straight without hitting the same lake. Super small portages, but you can't actually book. It's first come, first serve in the sense that, like, let's say you want to do circuit 15, you have to show up that morning and they'll for your your rental. If you need to rent like boats and stuff like that, that's first come, first serve. So it's even like I've never heard of people having to be turned around, but it can be a bit nerve-wracking in that sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you want to be the first one there at 3:00 in the morning just to make sure.
But if you do own your boat, a little tips for everybody: if you go out there and you don't need to rent anything, you can start from anywhere, and they can send you the access paper through email, and you can book 3 days ahead of your start date.
Mm-hmm.
So the way they work it is, let's say they'll let 10 people go on a circuit, start leaving on a Friday or a Saturday. Well, they'll save 3 spots for people that don't need to come to rent any of the boats, because most people, at least in that park, will rent like canoes and stuff like that, right? And most people will go out there to rent. So if you own your stuff, you can call ahead of time. They'll send you your permits ahead of time. That helps. That usually gets you in, and it avoids you from having to go to the main office down in the middle.
Mm-hmm. I think another benefit too to booking early is actually being able to book your time off of work. A lot of people have to sometimes scratch and claw to get the desired vacation time that they want. And you know what? If you're planning early, you have your dates set in stone quite early, then it makes it that much easier to be able to lock in your times at work. You know, getting time off from the boss man, right? Yeah. So the other thing too, what about booking and like during holiday weekends? Good idea or bad idea? Everybody's saying bad idea, but yeah, everybody wants to go away on a holiday weekend, right?
My suggestion is make sure to be deep in your trip by the time that weekend comes.
Yeah.
Or just choose somewhere really unpopular, or I guess I shouldn't say unpopular, but lesser known.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So when it comes to choosing a destination for your adventure, whether it's a hiking adventure, winter camping adventure, canoe trip, what things should you be looking for according to your skill level? Kevin.
Oh, good question. Again, it depends on who you're going with. You want to make sure that your trip is going to work for everyone. I've brought my kids into the backcountry when they were little, and we just planned for a really gentle pace. 10 to 12 kilometers a day, long lunch stops so they can play, that kind of thing. When I'm with a buddy, we're usually trying to do 20 kilometers a day at least, if not more. So you have to have that discussion ahead of time, what people are into, how hard they want to push. We sort of kick this show off with that. I think that's really, really critical. Like,
yeah, when you're planning though with a bunch, say a couple of buddies, or say for instance your regular canoe party. This could be one for Marty. It could be one for any of you. But okay, so what's the best way to go about it? I know in my case, I always ask, or I'll tell my partner, like, do a little research, and you come to the table with a couple potential trips, and I'll come to the table with a couple potential trips. We'll sit down over a couple of beers and figure out where we want to go. Do a little bit of research off the hop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Marty?
Yeah. For me, because I go with Pierre all the time, like honestly, every trip we're on, we're planning the next one. So it's not like we have much discussion where to go. It's like we're always like, him and I have like this compilation of places we've gone together, and we just keep stacking them, really.
Yeah. I got to put this comment up. Retired on site says time off work isn't a problem anymore. There you go, Brian.
Freedom 55.
Yeah, I wish, man. I wish. Yeah. Shoot.
But I think Kevin hit most of the places, right? Like, what people want to do, level of experience. What is it that you're looking to see? What is it that you're looking to view? It's going to guide you to where, to a good place to start.
Yeah. Most trips I've been on, I've been kind of like Marty with his buddy. We're either talking about it on the trip, or a buddy will mention something to me in the off season at this time of year and say, hey, let's go try this river. And so people usually have a trip, and I might keep shutting off. I keep calling it, whoever has the idea, it's kind of their trip, and they're kind of the leader. Who's the leader of a trip is pretty important as well. And so one year I exchanged a number of years, I exchanged hiking trips with a buddy of mine. This year I'll plan it, next year you plan it, and that works really well as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what about like when you're choosing your destination, should the difficulty of the trip play into this? Obviously it should, right? Case in example, this year our big trip was a really tough trip, right? And my regular partner says, you know what, next year we really need something with a few more layover days, because we didn't have any. So that has a lot to do with it too. Is last year's trip could have a direct bearing on next year's trip too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. I think one of the best things you can do after any trip is write those things down. Was it too hard? How far did you go? How much food did you bring back? How much fuel did you bring back? And just it's very that information is so valuable. It helps you be more efficient in your travel. Your pack is lighter. All those things matter. So I would add what you said. It was too hard. Let's slow it down. That's something you should keep a journal or a spreadsheet or something, whatever your thing is, and that's super valuable information. No book is going to tell you how much you eat, how much fuel you burn. You're a unique person. You have to learn that yourself.
Yeah. How many people here? How many people here on panel actually keep a journal of their trips for that type of thing, gauging food, fuel?
Yeah.
It's not
I
an
write
exact
stuff down.
journal.
Let's say that again, Marty.
The kind of thing. Well, it's not an exact journal for me, because the kind of thing I have to say that I find really matters. Food. I usually eat everything. Like, it's like last night is usually like I feast. I just eat everything that's left. I ration most of the trip and I just finish it all off with a 3,000 calorie dinner on the last one. But the things that I find that if anyone at home wants to start planning, like, and become better at planning their trip over time, the number one thing is record your travel time with, like, I use Gaia GPS on all of my trips and I record them, and it's fun to look at the routes. Mind you, the routes, maybe you'll never look at the routes again, or maybe you want to write a trip report and that's interesting, but your speed of travel will become so useful. And for backpacking, for canoe camping in the wintertime, in the summertime, low water, high water, flat water trip, whitewater trip. And then when you plan next time, you're like, yeah, I want to do a 30-kilometer day trip 5 days in. Now you have data from the past where you're like, okay, in this condition, this was doable or not, right? Like, our trip down the Noir River last year was 150 clicks in 5 days. And we did days up to 40 kilometers. Now, I had never done that before, but now I have a reference. And you think you'll remember, you'll never remember. Mm-hmm. Like, honestly, that data, you'll never remember. So I can go back and I can see my top speed. And more importantly, with the travel time, you'll have, like, let's say your whole day is 6 hours, but only 4 of those hours were traveled. Like, that kind of information for planning, to me, over time has become, that's how I've managed to do bigger and bigger trip in smaller amounts of time, by being very knowledgeable about my speed of travel.
Yeah.
Okay. I just put a quick little survey in the chat over there asking if you journal. Do you journal to keep track of your your consumption of fuels, your consumption of food, the gear that you use and don't use on a trip? Because there's a lot of times I go on a trip and I actually, when I get home, I'll look at it and say, I didn't even use this. This didn't even come out of the backpack. But the year before, the thing was out of the backpack all the time. So how do you determine whether you're going to use it or not, right? Just throw something in the air, like maybe a tarp or something, right? A tarp you should always have, but 1 year it might not rain. You might not need that thing. Next year, you might have nothing but rain and you need it all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll leave that chat. Actually, right now we got 56% saying yes, that they do kind of journal and keep track of things. That's pretty good. That's higher than I really expected, because I thought maybe a lot of people are like me and don't really, I guess most of it stays in the journal up here rather than on here, right? So, yeah. Cool. Okay, so the one thing I want to know, though, what resources are you using to find your destinations? I know a lot of it could be hearsay, But Michaela, what do you use as besides your own fantastic tool on your website? How do you research? How do you find your information for your trips?
So it comes down a lot to the specific region that I'm looking at. I've got a bunch of guidebooks, so I'll look through those. I use a lot of Hap Wilson and Kevin Callan's guidebooks, and that'll be for general inspiration. I also use, like, I'll see someone I know did a trip in X location on Instagram, so I might use them. I might use them as inspiration. But when it comes to actually like planning the nitty gritty of the trip, I would say my CCR, obviously helpful. I would say the guidebooks that are really focused on campsites and day by day. Like, for instance, Hap is really good for those kind of things.
Yeah.
Also, just the park maps are helpful. Like, I love getting out the maps and then just kind of using a string or like a marker to try and jot out a route. My favorite thing to use, though, which is probably not going to come as a surprise to anyone, is I love reading other people's trip reports. So I like looking through other people's blogs or their websites just to see where they've been and reading those. And then I'll bookmark any of the ones that I think are really helpful. And then I'll go back to them, even if I'm not doing the exact route that they did. If someone specifies, like, this was a great campsite, or like, we had amazing sunsets while we were here. If I can work those campsite recommendations into my route planning, I find that really helpful. Now that I'm doing a lot of backpacking and there's fewer options for that, I find, like, I don't really need a lot of inspiration. The backpacking trips are kind of defined. So I'm using All Trails a lot, or just the park resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some pretty cool apps out there now too that are starting to get quite deep into these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Marty, what about yourself? You have resources that you are your go-to resources?
Yeah. I can share my screen. Like we talked in the green room, especially for Quebec, at least. Like, honestly, once I had landed on that website, it's a really good resource. Just like kind of separates it all by region. So if the folks at home are on there, it's called cartepleinair.org. I don't know if you want to maybe paste that in somewhere, but in there you can either look at the if you look at it's a lot, most of this stuff is in French though, but like if you look at the Canorama, that'll be like a map of all the, like, this dude that I don't know who does this. I think his name is Charles Leduc. This guy went all around the country and he does some of the best trip reports, like for the Noir, the Dumoine, the Coulonge. Like, I get a lot of them from in there. So you can select them by the map, or probably for me, the part that I personally enjoy the most is if you just go to, where is it? So right from this version here, you have like by region, right? So like, just like you pick where you want to go in the regions, and I'll show you what it looks like. So for example, like I'm planning to go down the Dumoine this year and down the Coulonge, actually, just to complete all Three Sisters. And then, so Charles Leduc is one of the main contributors. I don't know if he owns it. I have no, in terms of the source, I have no credit. Like, it's not mine. It's all their stuff. But if you click on the PDF of what they have to offer, and it's kind of neat because a lot of the way they write their, as you can see, my internet is terribly slow. Let's see here. What's neat is a lot of the way they kind of come up with their trip report is the same format over and over again. So like, you just become familiar with the way they put it together, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a good way to reuse it. And that, honestly, like, it's got like, and a lot of it is in French. I mean, a map is a map, but like you'll where a little bit of where it's at, when it's a good time to navigate it with the government kind of water levels, the campsites. Do you have to book for it? Is it Crown land? The registrations, if you have to go on different lands, that you have to pay people, the different outfitters, the float planes that you might need. And then here's the legend that, like, especially for like the people that can't speak French at all, the legend here is pretty self-explanatory, because if you can read that, like in French, instead of having like C1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 for rapids, they're called R. So like rapid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those are kind of the levels. The S's, the S's are they're not quite falls. They're like ledges, if you will. And then chutes are falls. And then, you know, you have the campsites to put in. And then after that, like you'll have the map. Like, for example, the Des Moines here, it's going to be breaking down into 8 maps. And then it starts you at the top. And then you'll have like all the put in points, all the, like, if you like, and they're all like topographic maps that they do it on. And it's super detailed. That's how I do most of my river tripping, is off of that website. It's a fantastic, fantastic resource. It's got hiking trips on there and tons and tons and tons. Like the people that are doing this is like, they do such a good job, and it's pretty accurate. Like this one was written, sorry, I'm going fast here, 2018. So like it's pretty recent. Yep. And if they do update it, they'll just change it right on there. So like you'll have the 2021 version. And if you desire to contribute to that, if you, let's say you take that trip report, and on it, there'll be like question marks at some point, like, oh, can you still verify if the campsite here is still good, or is it's flooded or whatever, then you can just kind of like send contributions, and they'll add it to it. It's all grassroots. It's a fantastic place for just in general.
That's an awesome resource, actually. I wonder if there's a way of translating all that into English through a PDF, though.
Well, yeah, well, most of the, like I said, the map is a map, right? I mean,
Yep.
I think that's pretty self-explanatory. All the information here, you could copy paste it into Google Translate if you wanted to.
True.
And it would be pretty accurate. I mean, not perfect, but pretty accurate. And all the phone numbers of like the different like websites, like most of them will have like an English version. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about it, but that it's a fantastic resource. Like, you know, all the different rivers, all the different areas, super neat. And then another great place in Quebec that I talked about earlier is La Réserve Faunique of Parc La Vérendrye, which is up north. It's a little annoying the way they work it, the way it's kind of organized. It's not like you have a Jeff map of the whole place and you can just kind of select. You're kind of bound to following the circuits that they've already pre-established, if you will. So you say, like, I'm going to go on a 5-day trip and I'm going to travel on circuit 15. And then that's kind of a pre-established route that you kind of have to stick to, if you will. You can't really make up your own routes, but you kind of can. Anyways, the point is that there's I in the private chat of the live stream, I copied this Google map here. This gentleman, prospector16.com, went around over many years and did most of the circuits. And what's neat about this is that he's mapped them on Google Map, and then you can kind of refer to it, because again, they don't sell you a big map of the park. It's so big. They sell you sections of it, and you have to buy them before you can trip plan, if that makes sense. Or you can go on the website and say, I want a 4-day trip, and they recommend circuits, but it's hard to plan without a map. What I like about this is I don't think this substitute a good map. Like I have their real good like topographic map, which I recommend everybody to leave with. But that helps you plan as you go. So I don't know if there's a way to paste that link in the comments.
I can actually do it there. That's the one that you put in the private chat?
Yeah, in the private chat. And then this way you can kind of look at like the different circuit number, right? So when you select them, you have, like I did circuit 15 last year, for example. So with the kids, so you have that, and then you can kind of go around and see this is circuit 10, campsite 46, and there are 2 spots in it, right? So anyways, it gives you an idea so that you can plan it, and that's another great resource for La Vérendrye. Like those are probably my 2 biggest resources. Like La Vérendrye is the closest to Algonquin Park that you'll find in Quebec, version, if you will. There's a lot more motorboats on these, because most of these lakes, because it's a wildlife reserve, it's designed for hunting and fishing. So most of these have like some kind of like forestry roads that because they do a lot of like harvesting of wood in that park, unfortunately, as well. But anyway, so a lot of those lakes are accessible and people do fish them with boats, but I've gone a lot of times and it hasn't bothered me, if that makes sense. I've crossed motorboats, but it hasn't bothered me. So it's another great resource for flat water canoeing, and more in particular. And the reserve, like if you look at it, like the reserve is massive. Like it's all of this here. And most of all the Three Sisters actually starts from La Vérendrye. Like they're the Noir, Coulonge, and the Dumont, they all start from in there and they go south from there into the Ottawa River. And yeah.
Do you paddle yourself very much in Ontario?
Me? Most of my paddling has been done in Algonquin Park is what I've covered a lot. Some Crown Land, Calabogie area and all that kind of stuff. Once when I was younger with my parents, but most of it has been Algonquin Park and then the rivers and then the wildlife reserve personally.
Cool.
Yeah.
Looks like you got some good resources there. I wish we had a little more like that. Looking at this Google map, I know Brad Jennings from Explore the Backcountry here in Ontario. He has a map that he does his Google Map presentations on his website as well, and that's where I actually got my big canoe route from last year. Mind you, it was hard to find information for it, but it's great when everybody contributes these types of things to the community, so that it certainly makes things a lot easier for everybody else as a whole, right?
Yeah. No, that's like the grassroots movement of putting that kind of work together is phenomenal. Like it's a lot of work. You think putting videos together is a lot of work. This is a lot of work too.
Yeah. The one thing, just like Michaela and probably Kevin too, the MyCCR website, although it's a great resource, right, and it's a great way to find different types of routes, I find that some of the trip reports that they have on there are very dated. Some back like as far as like 1985, back when they first started putting together these like forum type of things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you find that as well, that some of them are really outdated.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't really use my CCR anymore, but definitely when I was getting, and for like really specific destinations where they don't get paddled very often, sometimes that's the best you can find. But for most of my trips now, no, I don't use my CCR anymore.
Right. Tell us about what you have going on, Michaela.
Well, as a kind of side project for my blog, I started a website that is uncreatively named Trip Reports. And it's just a compilation of trip reports written by experienced adventurers, mostly across Ontario and mostly canoe routes. And they all follow the exact same format and have the maps and photos, day by day, campsite descriptions, and all of that. But it's just community sourced. So we're at 100 trip reports now. So it's been a fun project. And that's actually where I now do most of my research, just because all of the reports that come in, I have to read, review, and then fact check. So I've been learning about a lot of cool destinations. So that's where I start most of my planning now.
And they can find that on your website at voyagertripper.com, correct?
Yeah, in the top bar, there's just a big button that says trip reports.
Yep.
A disclaimer, like it is I try not to promote it too much on other people's channels because it is a paid resource just to cover all the people who contribute trip reports. I compensate them for it because they have to put in so much time because they are really comprehensive. So it's a paid thing, and all the money that I raise from it goes towards paying people to write these really great resources.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got an accolade from Chris Rouse saying, just wanted to say Michaela's trip report planning site is amazing. Definitely worth checking out. She's put a ton of work into making it both an informative and entertaining resource to read.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for that, Chris. Yeah. So now, Kevin, you what type? You mentioned that you like the MyCCR as well, but what else do you use for?
Everything Michaela and Marty mentioned is really great. I'm going to take the conversation at a different angle. For logistics, all those things make sense. Yep. Sometimes I like to go and find old books. And, this was put out by the MNR many, many years ago, Canoe Routes of Ontario. If you're looking for an old book, there's a website called bookfinder.com that will help you find those. And I also like to look for like historical or natural history books. about an area. A lot of places we go to in the wilderness aren't written about, but sometimes you find some gems. This is Shirley Pereniuk's book about Quetico. She was an interpreter, worked in the park for a long time. There's some amazing stories here about people who lived in the park before it became a park, and what happened, and that's awesome. Nancy Scott wrote a book about Lake Nipigon, and it's fantastic. It's got a lot of history. So as you're traveling and as I'm planning, I'm trying to hit some of these places that, oh, there's an island that a family lived on for 5 years and they grew a garden, and I go and I look and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why there's no trees on that end of the island or something. So just trying to hook into some of those things. And another thing I like to do, I'm a pictograph hunter. I love to go after pictographs. Quetico has a little pamphlet. Mine is falling apart. But I've got an assortment of other books about pictographs and where they're found, and a little bit of interpretation. So again, it's everything those guys said about logistics makes perfect sense. We've got a lot of resources now. I'll encourage people to dig a little bit deeper and try and pull up some of that natural history or geology. Try and hit some other dimensions in your planning and try and go see those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So many other resources too. What do you got there, Marty?
It's Hap's book for the Ottawa Valley, the river. Like, there's tons of history stuff in there too, like about the Aboriginals and the voyageurs and how everything traveled. It's just, honestly, it's just fantastic read if you enjoy that stuff.
Yeah, there is a link to that in the description below, as well as a lot of the resources that we're talking about. If anybody's looking for any of these, I haven't left you out in the dark. I actually have a whole pile of lists down in the description below for books on Amazon and different websites and stuff like that. So you can actually utilize these things. Another huge resource right now these days, and something that is like one of my first go-tos anymore, above my CCR and above a lot of the books, is going right here on YouTube. There's a lot of fantastic content creators that are actually putting out very documented trips and giving a lot of information and route information. And I'm sure a lot of times if you reach out to these individuals, they would be more than happy to share, resources where they got their information, whether it's mapping or, where to book your permits and stuff like that. The community that we have as a paddling community really makes a huge difference when it comes to doing this type of thing. I'll throw one case in point. This year, when we were planning our trip, I actually contacted a good friend of mine who is in the chat here, and we actually did a Skype stream for probably 45 minutes to an hour, and we had a couple beers on there, and I picked his brain about a whole bunch of different trips, and he was telling us things that you wouldn't find in books and even in some of his own books, if that gives an indication who I was speaking to. But if you reach out to a YouTuber that's recently done a trip, I'm sure they would be more than happy to share any information that they have, right? So,
if I could plug another great resource, it would be the Wilderness Canoe Association.
Yes.
If anyone's a member there, they have a ton of great resources and a ton of really knowledgeable people, especially of a older generation. Who might not necessarily be doing things online, but love talking about their trips and sharing their resources. And you can also just go paddling with them in non-COVID times, which has been a lot of fun.
Well, they have their quarterly book called the
Slogan. I think I have it somewhere on this bookshelf.
Yeah, and they also do presentations from time to time, like Skype, or not Skype. What's the other one there? Zoom meetings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So. Yeah, that's awesome. So what other type of resources can we look into? Do you anybody remember back in the day when you can call up, say, for instance, the Chamber of Commerce in a particular area and ask them for information? They would send you maps about their local canoe routes that they might maintain. I know I've got a few maps kicking around downstairs for like up around Gogama area and stuff like that. They don't do that anymore. Too bad.
I really like calling outfitters and just picking their brains. Especially if it's a place I've never been before, I'm not that familiar with. They tend to have a lot of really great information and a lot of insider information you might not find elsewhere.
Sure. What about doing shows? Go to shows like the Toronto Outdoor Adventure Show or the Sportsman Show to try and find different canoe routes out through that way? No, nobody?
Yeah, when they're happening, it'd be great.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. We're crossing our fingers for the Toronto show this year, although I got a feeling.
There's a couple that Facebook groups are also a great place. We haven't talked about that. Like, honestly, if Facebook is worth anything nowadays, it's really for its groups. That's where you're going to find the most value. You know, there's like, especially for me, like more for winter technical backpacking. Like I'll often land in there, and like if I go to the Adirondacks or the Whites and I want like snow conditions, for example, for a specific weekend that I'm going out for avalanches or whatever might be happening. Like what's nice is these groups are active in the community, and they're going to report back. It's like, okay, the trail is broken up to that mountain peak or that mountain peak. So Facebook groups are like super underrated, by the way, for just like status of water levels and all that kind of stuff. And there's another interesting group. It's a Quebec group again, but it's called the Club Radisson Cano. And it's a paying group. It's not very expensive. It might be $10 for the whole year on Facebook, but a ton of, if you're looking also for people to go out paddling with, they organize trips all the time. Like all together, it's like, hey, we're going down to Des Moines, or we're doing this trip. Who's in? And then people just kind of join, and you've got like various level of experience and a lot of like veterans that can not veterans, but like people with a lot of experience that can share with you how to do stuff. So that's also like Facebook groups can be a bit underrated nowadays, but they're pretty good for that.
Yeah.
And clubs. Marty mentioned the White Mountains. This is my hiking guide to the White Mountains. It's a great place to go. It's published by the Appalachian Mountain Club. So there's a club. Their headquarters is in Boston, and they manage they coordinate some of the management of the trail. The trail goes through different jurisdictions. And so, but especially in the States, there's a lot more clubs that have tremendous amount of information and can give you, more information about current conditions, about water levels or temperatures, or, what it's like to hike on Mount Washington in September, because there's probably snow there already.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Hey, do you mind if I do a really quick swag giveaway right now?
Let's do it.
I just to let everybody know, I just posted the link in the chat. If anybody wants to come up and ask a question or add a comment to something that we may be already discussing, just to share the wealth with everybody, right? But I just posted that link. Feel free to pop in for a few minutes. Anyone is welcome. And I'm going to do the swag giveaway. So for tonight's swag giveaway, it is sponsored once again, as usual, by our good friends over at Algonquin Outfitters. And here's my commitment. Alrighty, once again, congratulations to Algonquin Outfitters, who celebrated their 60th anniversary last year, and we're into 2022, so it's going to be 61 years. And am I echoing?
Nope.
I'll stop for a sec. Nope, maybe not. Anyway, new way of giving away some prizes, and let me just throw this on screen. Let me hit my mute for a sec. Check. No, I don't know what's going on, but here. Anyways, everybody, we got all kinds of swag to give away, all kinds of patches and decals and Algonquin Outfitter stuff. Put the word trip planning in the chat, and in a couple of minutes, we'll hit the button and we'll determine a winner right away. No emailing me this week. That's all good. Anyways, I see we have a couple people in the basement. And I'm going to bring up Karina, and I'm going to drop out and come back in. Hi, Karina.
You're it now.
Hello? Anyways, I'm going to change mics. How you doing, Karina?
I think Karina might be on mute.
No, I was muted. That was weird. Oh boy, no, I'm echoing.
Does anyone on the stream right now have 2 tabs open?
Nope. Dennis, are you still echoing?
I am still echoing. This is all me. Let me. I'm going to drop out of the stream and I'll pop back in. In the meantime, when I get back, I'll do the drop. You guys chat. Tell people how to plan a trip.
Oh, that's better.
No, we're still echoing.
He was
Dennis problem.
Maybe I should drop out too.
Not gonna be anyone left.
Someone's mic is live. I don't know. It doesn't echo that much on my end, but
Dennis, it's not you. Even when you left the chat.
Okay. Check. Michaela's okay.
you sound.
Marty, check.
Hello.
It might be Marty.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Anyways, let me hit the draw button, and I'm going to draw a winner right now, and then we're going to get back on with the show. Sorry about this, everybody. Technical difficulties. Got to love it, right? Last trip, our chance to get trip planning in. You got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Draw. Who we got? Hey, we got Retired Outside as our winner. So you know what? Drop me an email at canoehound@gmail.com. Shoot me your address, and I will get your prize out in the mail in a day or two. Congratulations. Okay, let me close this screen. Maybe this will help here. No. One of us is echoing still, but we'll figure it out. Is this unbearable, people in the chat? Anybody else talking? No.
Sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Yeah, I'm going to change my mic here. I apologize for this.
But it wasn't echoing until Kevin left.
I know, right? Let's see.
Emma's the one keeping us together.
Oh, this is horrible. Okay, maybe. No, see, I'm on a different mic. Okay, anyways, I'm going to try everybody muted for a second here, and I'm going to talk, and we'll see what happens. There, and okay, we got echo? No? So it's somebody. Got echo now?
Hello.
We got echo now?
Is it me?
And
now he's back.
Okay, so where were we here? We have Sheldon Mays in the basement there. Let's bring him up and see what he's got for a question for us tonight. Sheldon, how you doing tonight?
You're muted.
You're muted.
Wait, I'm muted. There we go.
There we go. We got you.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I didn't realize I had to have a question ready. But off on the spot, first question I've got is, what do you think about when planning a trip? So we've decided, we've thought about the skills that the group has and the people you want to go and how hard you want to push it or not. How do you plan for something unforeseen like the weather? How do you leave enough space on your trip so that you can actually make it to your destination every day?
That's a great call. Who wants to take that one on? I can tell you something that we do on our trips, Sheldon, is usually when we're on our trips, and we always try to account for 1 or 2 layover days. Now that if we're doing a 7-day trip, we'll usually try to take a 5-day trip and turn that into a 7-day trip. So you have those layovers for those unforeseen events. Sometimes you're fortunate and you can have your layover day on beautiful days and use your rain days as travel days. But if you're on a trip where you're doing a 7-day trip in 7 days, you kind of have to push, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You have to extend your days if you have to take a layover day, for instance. Anybody else got anything to add to that? Karina?
I'm gonna let somebody else go first.
Oh, I thought you were waiting.
Yeah.
Well,
I would agree
in terms of
totally.
planning, well, it's okay, Michaela, you can go.
I would echo exactly what Dennis said, and then also add on. I try never to book a day of travel to be a true full day of travel. Like if I think I'll have 10 hours of sunlight on the water, I'll only book for maybe 7 hours so I can also make up time in addition. Because if you only have 4 days to do a trip, you kind of want to book a full 4-day trip. So I'll just try and leave some buffers in there. Maybe I'll have a really long day. But also always pack extra food just in case you're out for longer than you intend to be. Sometimes that happens.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. The most important thing is extra food, like in case you have to stick out. And for me, like work wise, if ever I'm stuck out there for an extra day, I'll just it's not the end of the world, so it'll just be what it is. But it's not the reality for everybody, right? So if you have depending on your job, you might want to be a lot more conservative because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But food,
it can be really tough
out
too.
there.
If you're at one of those places that requires you to book certain destinations, it can be really tough, especially if you can't book it till the last minute. My wife and I did a trip in Jasper a few years ago. We did 5 nights in the mountains, and we met a young guy who booked like that Friday or whatever before the weekend, and he was doing incredible distances. He was doing the whole trail in 2 nights. And you just got to be like, if you're gonna do that, be ready for that. I'm not sure I could do the trail in that kind of distance. That was the Tonkin Valley. It's a very rugged, very beautiful place, but very, very rugged. And sometimes that's the reality. So I guess the other thing is ask, if you're going to a park, especially, ask what the right thing to do is if you get behind. I did a trip in Puckasaw a few years ago. And I had one really long day, and it wasn't incredibly long in terms of kilometers, but it was really tough trail. And I said, what should I do if I have to stop? If I run out of daylight, what do I do? And they said, yeah, we're not going to fine you if you have to camp in an emergency situation. So, but some places will. Like there are places in the States where if you're not at the right spot, you could get a fine. So just be aware of all that kind of stuff.
Where is your regular paddle place, Sheldon?
Where's my what? Sorry.
Where do you usually like to paddle? Are you an Ontario paddler? Or?
Yeah, I'm based in Ontario.
Okay, cool. And are you planning a
one
trip
of the
for
thing I would
season already?
I haven't started planning yet. I just finished a winter camping trip, and now I'm looking for what's next.
Cool. Any other questions for the panel or comments?
Nope, not for me. Thanks, everyone, though. It's been really interesting.
One thing I can add, we talked a little bit about that earlier, about like your GPX tracks. Like if you can track your travel, start small, and over the years, as you do more and more and more, you'll have a much better understanding of what you can travel through and how long. Like that data is really key.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for popping on, Sheldon. Appreciate it.
Thanks
You're
very
one
much.
of the brave ones. Many are not so brave. Thanks. Have a great time. Enjoy the rest of the show. Okay, so we're talking a bit about getting into gear and stuff like that when it comes to gear preparation. What should we be doing now for the summer season?
Dehydrating.
Dehydrating, yeah. Yeah, Kevin's our specialist on that there. But before we get into food, what about our gear though? I guess right now is the time when we want to start taking care of our gear, checking it out to make sure everything's in good shape.
Yeah.
Don't want to be doing it last second. Marty, any gear maintenance tips?
For me, it's a tad early because I'm deep into my winter stuff right now. So I'm just like, when I put it away in November, like at the end of November, like I always put my gear away and I go through it first. So I know it's in pretty good shape. So when I pull it out in probably like March to kind of go over it, But yeah, just, if you have a gear checklist, that's the way to go. Like I have my own gear checklist. You pull it out, you pitch your tents, you make sure the zippers still work. You look at your, all that kind of stuff. You just kind of grab a beer and have a good fun evening, just having fun in your living room with your camping gear.
Yeah.
Make a couple of stories on Instagram. Yeah, pardon me?
I was going to say re-waterproof your stuff. I run into that problem this year, realizing on trip that none of my
if you need to do all that. Yeah.
Well, what types of gear are you waterproofing, Michaela?
Rain jacket.
Yeah.
And if you have an older tent, some tents you can re-waterproof the fly.
Yeah. Yeah. Ever give any thought to re-waterproofing boots?
Yeah.
I
haven't re-waterproofed.
That's an often overlooked piece of equipment that gets missed when it comes to water treating or something along that lines.
Yeah, I have not done that myself.
Yeah, I find the one thing is always my first thing to go to for maintenance and making sure it works is my stove, my MSR stove, because they're so easy to maintain. You can take them things right apart, even in the field. But getting all that soot out of it, making sure the shaker jet's clean and it's still working. The pump cup on the fuel bottle, making sure that remains well lubricated so it doesn't not pump the vacuum in, right? How about yourself, Kevin?
Yeah, for sure.
I would say replace all those O-rings, or if you don't need to replace them, order extras, especially with stove parts. Like I've got a Primus stove. It's got this little felt on the bottom that soaks up the fuel, and those wear out. And so I've got like 10 of them in my drawer. They're really cheap. I don't want to not have my stove because I forgot that piece. And so go through your repair kit, make sure you've got extra O-rings, extra felt, extra whatever you need. It's a good time to do that. Especially now with COVID, and ordering stuff is really tough, right? Sometimes stuff is on delay. So get it now.
What about air mattresses? Your underpads. These things are notorious for getting the smallest little air leak in them. What's the best way to, say, for instance, find an air leak in something like that?
Soap and
I
water.
blow them all up and put some weights on them. But to find out if they leak first, I just lay some weights on them and then I blow them all up, leave them up for a day out, and then see if they actually lost air. That would be the first before you soak them in the water.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Okay, food preparation. This is like she has a great resource for food. He has a great resource for food. Yeah. So we'll talk about Kevin's got a great book called Backcountry Eats that he has published. And actually I should pull my copy out too here. But show everybody your book and give some pointers on food preparation.
I've buried my copy. I buried my copy underneath other books. Yeah. This came out in June. If you like to eat and you like to camp, this is probably a good thing to have. If Santa wasn't good enough to you, you should buy it yourself. 100 recipes. The first couple 100 pages the first 100 pages are all about technique and how to and what to look for in a dehydrator, all that kind of stuff. And I understand Michaela has also got a good product.
Yeah, I here. This is false advertising. I don't do a print version anymore. But at one point there was a print. But yeah. I do. I just love cooking in the backcountry. Not so much at home. Love the dehydrating. I'm echoing really bad on this side, so let me know if this is annoying on your end. But yeah, I do dehydrating in an oven. So if you don't have a dehydrator, not an excuse. You can make it work. So if you have any specific questions about that, let me know.
Oh, now you're muted.
Dennis, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm in a chat right now with StreamYard trying to figure out this echoing issue. You want to talk about food?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait.
Oh,
Marty, what's your favorite meal?
What's your favorite meal?
Yeah, what's my favorite? Well, let's see. It's interesting because a lot of people like to dehydrate food, and it's a great technique. But honestly, for me, most of my trip length are like I haven't gone longer than 5 days. Like I don't do one big trip. I prefer doing many trips.
Yeah.
And if you're on a canoe trip, like especially on rivers, and you go 4 or 5 days, I've eaten like. And I don't advise anyone to do that necessarily, but I've eaten chicken on my 3rd day, like fine. Like it's like you froze it at home and in the middle of July, like I have a video where I did that too, on my YouTube channel where it's like 5 day of fresh foods that I bring out. So I do all the cooking at home. I don't dehydrate anything because weight doesn't really bother me.
Yeah.
And then I freeze literally everything I can freeze. Like
do you cook your actual meals ahead of time? Or are you like preparing meals for the fire?
So like let's say I know I'll have like spaghetti meatballs. I'll cook the spaghetti sauce and I'll put it in a Ziploc bag or whatever, and then I'll freeze it. But I'll freeze like everything, the bread, everything that can be possible freezing. And then in the barrels you can get the barrel coolers that work actually really well. And
yeah,
I mean you don't do it on purpose to eat chicken that late, right? But like. And you can go vegetarian by the end, but like they'll last, like, and hearty vegetables will last like cauliflowers will be fine for 5-6 days, even at plus 30. I've never personally had an issue. And if you have like such a big mass of ice from the beginning in a cooler inside of your barrel, so I eat pretty good. Like I eat like really good food out there. It's all fresh most of the time because I don't leave longer than 5 days. If you do leave much longer, like it's different. Like space and weight becomes an issue.
Yeah.
But, anywhere from like steaks to like chicken rice with vegetables to pizzas. I'm a huge fan of pizzas out there, like on non-bread. That's probably my favorite one. Like, and I go Hawaiian style, but instead of the ham. So for everyone at home for pizza, here's the way to go. You go Hawaiian, but replace the ham with bacon. And it's the best thing in the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really quick, our echo gone now?
Yeah.
It's much better.
Much better? Okay. I had the drop right out. Anyways, okay, so what did I miss about food there? Are we still dehydrating food?
Or we're not dehydrating food. Depends on length of trip.
Well, I was just telling them it's awesome to dehydrate your food, but I barely dehydrate my food because I never leave for longer than 5 days personally.
Yeah.
So like I can bring fresh food for 5 days pretty easily.
Yeah.
Cool. We got Karina and Brandon down here. I just wanted to ask, what are your first go-to steps when you're getting ready to plan a trip? You're on mute.
Oh gosh. Sorry, I actually dropped out to see if the echo would improve. It was really bad here. It seems to be a little bit better there. Yeah, I plan my trips, I think, a little bit differently than everybody else here because we're pretty much last minute and no other way about it. But yeah, basically beginning step would be how long do we want to go? So we look at routes. A lot of the time we go to Algonquin, and so Jack's maps have been our like go-to resource. And yeah, we'll start there. Plan a route. I'll like calculate the kilometers, however long we go. Last year when we did our double solo trip, we wanted a different type of route. So we wanted a route that started together and then split off and then came back together at some point. And so we could go in a double solo and start on a route, kind of race to the next campsite, and then finish the trip together. And it turned out really well. And we found out also by doing that what we're capable of. And so we were able to see like Brandon did like 25 kilometers by himself, completely self-sufficient, everything on his back in one day, actually in an afternoon, 2 p.m. And he got there by dark. And so you're able to push our limits, and every time you go on a trip, you'll be able to see how much longer you can go, how much you can push, what you need to do to like make like this many miles in a day or whatever. And yeah, so basically that's where we start. Look at a map, calculate the kilometers, and see what we get one day. And then after that, we start food planning. You're muted. You're still muted.
You're muted, Dennis.
So it's not me echoing. I know that much. Anyways, how far in advance are you actually planning a trip? I know you're a last minute person, as you said earlier. Like how far? What's the longest you've ever planned a trip in advance?
So I have planned a group trip like months and months in advance because I was trying to get a bunch of basically a bunch of newbies started. So I wanted to make sure everything went right. But usually if it's with people who know what they're doing, like a week before, maybe 2 weeks if I'm trying to get people I've never really gone with before, 2 or 3 weeks in advance. But yeah, it's pretty sometimes we'll just leave in a couple days. I'll go and get like a Timmy's chili and dehydrate it at home and then go from there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. It might have been you echoing, Marty.
Yeah.
You dropped out. Anyway, you know what?
Is it okay now? Because
the basement, and he has disappeared. And let's see here, Derek, come on up there. I want to see what you've got to say. And you know what? We got a spam bot in the chat too right now. Cool. Wonderful. Okay, you know what? Let's get back on track. This whole echo thing has thrown me right off my game plan. Okay, so food preparation. When you're getting ready to prepare all your food for all these trips, the long-term haul of actually doing food dehydrating. Who on panel here dehydrates pretty much all year round? Yeah. Anybody? No?
Depends on the trip.
Yeah. How about you, Derek? I don't know if Derek could hear me.
I get so much echo here. I'm having trouble following along here. But
okay. You're okay. You sound okay. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm not hearing any echo.
I'm not hearing the echo at all either.
Yeah.
What was the question, Dennis?
I asked, are you a food dehydrator year round?
I am. I do dehydrate food year round. So I discovered on my oven that I can dehydrate food in my oven, my kitchen oven. It has a setting, so it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's okay. Kevin, you cover
so
a lot of that in
echo.
your book, don't you, Kevin?
Sorry about that. I in the book I don't cover dehydrating in the oven too much because there are so many good cheap dehydrators out there. Nesco ones you can buy them for $60. But yeah, you can dehydrate in an oven, and if you've got a convection oven, the one challenge with an oven is that you don't get much air circulation. So they leave the door open, and the humidity kind of drifts out. But if you have a convection oven, you can leave the door open a crack, and you can turn that fan on in the oven, and that really, really helps.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. Convection oven and then a slight opening.
Yeah,
cool. So, Derek, did you have a question for the panel? No?
No, I say hi.
Are you still getting echo? No? Okay. Anyways, okay, where are we here now? Food preparation. I wanted to talk about drafting up a trip itinerary and the importance of putting together something. I know, Kevin, you really touch on that in your one video on your channel. What can you tell us about planning itineraries for the actual trip?
The menu?
No. The actual itinerary, plans throughout the trip that you can share. Yeah.
Sure. Good question. One of the things I like to do is look for escape routes. You certainly want to plan your campsites as much as you can. Look for, especially if you're, I guess you don't have to do it canoe tripping, but if you're backpacking, You want to look for those water sources because, you want to know where the next stream is or whatever. So those are things I'll write on my itinerary. I'll put them on my map if I need to, or if I can. And yeah, I'll look for escape routes. Is there a trail that gets me out to a road somewhere? Is there a different portage route that I might be able to get out? If anything goes wrong, can I get myself out? So that's something I'm always aware of. And I'll even, Michaela, I think, mentioned early on about creating that itinerary. A friend of mine got me into this, and write down, what the color of your tent is, what the color of your tarp is, what the color of your canoe is, what the color of some of your baggage is, what you normally wear. Like, spell it all out. Spell out when you should be home. Spell out how much extra food you have. Spell out all that stuff, because you know what? I'm going to leave on like a Wednesday, and I'm going to wave goodbye to my wife, give her a hug and a kiss. And she's not going to remember any of my details. I may have talked all week to her about that, but as soon as I'm late, she's not going to be thinking about those details. And I don't want her dealing with the OPP, going in the shed to figure out what canoe is missing, right? I've got 3 canoes. Is it the red one? Is it the green one? So have it all on a piece of paper, hand it to someone before you go so that they don't have to freak out about it. Let them know, describe your experience. Say, I've got 20 years of canoe tripping experience. If I'm late and there's been bad weather, don't come get me, right? If I'm late and the weather's been fantastic, yeah, maybe you do need to come get me. Those kinds of things. Describe your comfort level of risk.
Yeah, that's something I always leave my wife a full itinerary, including a map outlining the entire trip to show her where we should be on any given day, and access points and name of access points and stuff like that. That a lot of times the trip will have many different access points, right? So you can, if you don't pinpoint exactly what your access point is, and they had to send help, they could be going to the wrong place. It doesn't really matter, right? Yeah. Yeah. Who here does a full itinerary and leaves it for their loved ones?
Yeah.
Everybody?
Definitely do.
Cool.
I have an Excel template also that that I can put on the screen if anyone wants to.
Sure. Yeah. I see somebody just popped in the basement. I'll bring you up momentarily there. Let's see. Add to the stream. There we go.
Okay. So this is the one that I use. And it's got things like the resources I'm using to actually plan the trip. Some of this is for me and some of this is for other people. Participant information for everyone who's on the trip, and all of their emergency contact information. Then we get into the route itinerary. And this is an example where the day of the trip, where we'll be, I include what map, and then I'll leave the map with someone and the coordinates. And then I'll also include things like any features we're going to encounter on that day and where the emergency access point is. We include things like gear, menu planning, and I'll leave this with usually my parents, with instructions of at what point, when am I thinking that I'll be back? When is the point when they should worry? And I leave them with instructions of here are the numbers to call and the order to call them in if you think that, or if I haven't made my check-in. I like Kevin's point that I hadn't done in the past, which was specifying the equipment I'm using. I hadn't done that before. So that's a good additional thing to include.
That's probably one of the more extensive ones I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's that's awesome.
I love Excel, so I have fun with it.
And that's available on your website.
It's a great tool.
Yeah.
If you take the time to do it once, it's really easy to update it on your next trip. Oh, I've got a different bag this time. Michaela mentioned a few things that I do that I didn't mention. So yeah, it's really important. I think you really want to make it easy on that loved one of yours who you're leaving that responsibility. Make it clear what you've got. Make it clear what communication devices you have. I let them know I've got flares in my bag. I let them know I've got a spot or an inReach or something. So just spell it all out. And that way it's easier on the person that you leave that with.
Would make
I actually just
a lot
pulled my
more important for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I actually pulled mine out. This is my InReach Mini. I mean, they're getting more and more used and common. Biggest mistake that people do with these, though, is they stop doing what Michaela was doing. And I don't think it's a substitute. I mean, these are battery, like they can fail. They're battery operated. So, but they are really nice to have. Like if you spend a decent amount of time out, like they're a game changer to be able to update people as like, you know, as you go, if you're going to be late and all that stuff. But then the flip side to it is that people get used to you giving them updates. And if they're dead and you're not updating people, then they get stressed out. And that's when the trip plan. So it's like double-edged sword here, but all in all,
this is true.
like super worth.
Yeah, I use mine purely
it's
for
really, really worth having.
I have the same one as you, and I use it purely for a calling help. I tell my parents, like, there are no updates. Because if we get bad weather and it doesn't send, then suddenly my mom thinks I'm dead and she'll panic. So it is not used to contact my parents at all.
Yeah, right.
Just for emergency.
There is a level between dead.
Not for my mom. It's like, in Texas today, she has been eaten by a bear.
We got another guest in the basement there I'd like to bring up here. Let's see here.
Hi, I'm Kevin Cowan, the Happy Camper.
Woo! Yes, I'm Apostle number 14. Well, if you visited me instead, you would have been fine. It's a one sexy beast, I'm telling you. You know, I called you poopy pants. Sorry about that.
Did you really?
I will hold in my urine for you, Dennis.
You have to remind Kevin that this is a family show.
What about the chipmunks?
Awesome.
Hey, Kevin, how you doing? You look like a prize fighter tonight.
I'm sick. I wasn't going to be involved tonight, but I thought, hey, this is a good topic.
It is a good topic.
I got my booster, and not feeling well.
Kevin, you really just couldn't help coming to rag on Brandon, right?
Well, Brandon is actually looking a lot sexier than I am.
He's this.
You like it
He's all 10.
Oh, wait a minute. I just saw the Maple Leafs. No, he doesn't look I got a question for all you guys, and I really am sick, actually, but I'm enjoying the talk tonight. And I never thought that I would use this house coat that Christine got me for Christmas, but man, I need it now.
What's the cough syrup you're drinking tonight?
I'm actually diet ginger ale. Remember when you were sick as a kid? You drank diet ginger ale. That's what I'm
flat, right?
I'm stirring it to make it flat. Yeah, that no, I got the worst luck. This is my it's my booster, and I've been sick through the whole three things. But like last night, I was like Exorcist, like projectile vomit.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm much better, but I have a question for you. Planning. So what is your preferences for who goes? Is it all women, all men, mixed, or solo? And I'm talking about group dynamics, because group dynamics is really important for trip planning.
Mm-hmm. Who do you
That's
want
hard to
answer
answer
that?
because I've never been on an all girls trip, so
Either.
I'll start with this one. You know what? Typically, our trips are male dominated. It's not too often that we have women on our trips, and it's not because they're not welcome. I would certainly welcome that. Wouldn't be an issue, but yeah, part of our canoe posse just never consists of any women.
There are a lot more men doing this kind of thing, so it's so great to see Karina and Michaela, as I cut off Michaela because of my delay, but it's so great to see people like Michaela out in doing this kind of stuff and talking about it. I'll shut up.
I have 4 distinct groups of people that I go on. So either solo, that's great. I'll bring one other female a lot of the time on some of my trips, especially if I'm trying to introduce someone to a new trip. One of my favorite groups of people to paddle with is I call them my retirees, and they're these 7 people from the Wilderness Canoe Association, where it's like me at 26, and then the next youngest person's 40, and then the rest of them are all retired. And I thought that would be a weird dynamic, but it's been such a blast paddling with them. or I used to lead a lot of trips for kids, so I'm very comfortable with like the big groups where we have like some of them have been all girls, some of them have been mixed between guys and girls, which has been like a really interesting dynamic. But I really like the big group trips, or I like 2 people, not really anything in between.
And just posting, some of the people in the chat are actually piping in on this one too.
I'm personally slowly grooming 2 young girls to become crazy adventurers over time, hopefully. So I go out with my daughters all the time. They're 8 and 9 now. And we go 5-6 days at a time. Going out, I love going out tripping with kids because that's what I did when I was younger. Like I used to work overnight camps. So we used to do a lot of tripping like this. And it's a very different kind of trip for me because it's a lot more educational. It's a lot more, I guess, guide in that kind of sense, right? So, and I love that. I love teaching that kind of stuff. So that's always fun. But then, you know, when I want to push myself, I don't really care if you're a guy or a girl. I just want to make sure that you come prepared. Like if we're going to be traveling 150 kilometers in 4 days, like you got to be ready to paddle 10 hours a day straight every day, 4 days straight, right? So I don't really care your gender. I just want to make sure that you're fit for what we're about to do, if that makes sense. And it has happened to be mostly guys for me as well, but it's just because, yeah.
Yeah, everybody's all over the board on that one, Kevin.
Well, what about? Wait a minute. The Maple Leaf man. Say anything?
He's not talking to me.
Oh, he's a Montreal fan. I bet you any money.
Abs.
Yes. Maybe not this year, but most other years.
Yeah, they're terrible this year. We mostly go just the 2 of us. We don't really have like a set group that we like to go with, but there's a couple we'd love to go with. Tunis and Brittany, we're trying to, next year we'll probably definitely get a canoe trip in with them, but for the most part, I've never really traveled with like a big group, and I would take guys, girls, whoever just knows what they're doing, and if they don't, well, I'll push them and help them with gear, and they either keep up or fall behind.
Yeah, we'll see you there. Yeah, we pack pretty light. We move pretty fast. So
yeah,
you need to have, like you guys were saying, you need to have people that can keep up to the trip you're planning, or you have to do a different style of trip.
Yeah.
Like if people are double carrying and stuff like that, that's fine, but that's not what we do.
Yeah. So that being said, I've also planned a trip for a bunch of newbies, but we didn't go very far. It was maybe an hour and a half of paddling at the most, and then we just kind of base camped there and kind of traveled around as much as possible just to get them into it, and they really enjoyed it. And I think those people will like. Eventually, some of them will want to do more, and some of them won't, just depending on who they are. But yeah, for the most part, it's just the 2 of us. I don't like going solo. I like to enjoy a trip with someone. But that being said, when we did our double solo trip, I also love pushing myself and seeing what I can do with my own canoe and my own backpack and everything on my back that I need for the 3 or 4 days or 5 or whatever, however long we're out there.
Self-sufficient with company.
Yeah. I want to be self-sufficient. I want to be able to push myself. I want to see if I could do it solo, you know, and at the same time enjoy it with somebody else, because I don't like being out there totally alone. But
big stag, I like that's a great comment.
I think the first trip you do
ditches you halfway. Does it count as a solo trip?
Yes, it does.
Trying to find a new group. We have somebody in the basin here. I'd like to get up there to ask a quick question. Kevin, you can stick around for a bit if you want.
Well, I just got one question, then I got to go throw up.
Okay.
So when I guided in Temagami, I would, if there was spouses, I would actually split them in the tandem canoe. I would put them in separate canoes with strangers. Who would do that, and who would rather be with their spouse on a 8-day trip?
I like mixing it up.
I'd rather be with my spouse.
Okay, I would take Karina every day, but I totally agree that people are going to perform a lot better if they're not with their spouse, where they can kind of bicker and blame each other for things. No, we don't do that. But I get what you're saying.
Not yet.
When we did river trips, I would never have the spouses in the one canoe, because the most prominent person in the relationship would say, "I'm steering, you just paddle." But in a river, that's different, right? So the person in the bow has to be a better paddler, but they don't know that. And then they'd go towards a rock. The person in the back would say, "Go left." The person would say, "I don't know what you're talking about." And that's how we'd wrap a canoe, big time. Yeah. So I'd always split them. Yeah. And also, it's more creativity. It's going with a stranger. Be with someone that you don't know. Be in a tandem canoe, not a solo canoe. Get to know someone as opposed to the person you live with. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks a lot. I'll let you go. And, all right. Has anybody ever got the reaction to this boost like I am? Like,
I don't know.
Not me.
Really?
I haven't had my booster yet, so.
Got it yet.
I'm just going to get this new variant, and I think that'll be better
than
what you're going through.
Hope you're feeling better, Kevin.
Good technique.
Right, see you later.
We'll talk later, man.
Hey, the Leafs suck. The Leafs suck.
And very patiently waiting in the basement there, we got Ontario Outdoor Explorer. How you doing, man?
Not too bad. You got it, you guys?
Good. Thanks for your patience down there.
No problem. It's not really a question. It was something I found a little while ago before my last trip. It's an app that you can download for your phone along the same lines of what Michaela was showing with the Excel sheet. Yeah. It's called Adventure Smart, and it's only available in Canada, but it allows you to pick all your gear, where you're going, and set your time that you're going to return. And if you don't return in time, it will actually email and SMS text message your emergency contacts that you're overdue.
Oh, cool.
So it's a great little alternative for those of us who don't have a in reach or anything like that. So it's just something you guys should be aware of, and other people should be aware of. I downloaded it, uses it. It gives you ideas of the essentials you should carry as well. So if you were going backpacking in avalanche country, it will say, do you have your avalanche beaker with you or your beacon? So something to be aware of. So adventuresmart.ca, and I'm not affiliated. I found it.
Adventuresmart.ca.
Yeah.
When you're back in the chat, would you mind posting that in there so everybody can grab a link?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great show. Thanks, guys.
Interesting. I've never heard of that, because there's a lot of, like I said earlier, there's a lot of useful apps when it comes to planning your routes as well, where you can find hiking trails, canoeing routes, and stuff like that. All you got to do is look through your Apple store or your Android store, right? So.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
So,
anything else? Yeah, I like little tidbits like that. I really do.
That's it.
And what's your name?
Guys. It's Douglas.
Douglas, thank you very much. I appreciate the input.
No problem.
Cool. Yeah, anybody else ever heard of that app, or has anybody else seen that app? Does anybody have any apps that they'd like to share? Go ahead. I'm looking for mine right now. I got a couple.
Go ahead, ladies first.
No, I insist.
No, go ahead.
What are you going on about?
What 3 words is really cool for, well, maybe not for Algonquin Park or something where you have no service. It still can work, I think. I'm not an expert on it.
It does actually work without service.
Yeah, so you know where you are, but you just can't tell anybody else. But if you had an inReach, it'll get you right to a 10 by 10 square anywhere in the world, basically. And when Karina does her day trips, she'll send me the 3 words, and I know exactly where she is. And even without cell service, it'll like navigate me directly there. So that's pretty cool. Also for emergency services, like Brittany and Tunis, they often have a hard time finding places when they're like sent whatever addresses are not the best. GPS coordinates or whatever can be a little bit complicated, but with this app, it's ridiculously easy. You put 3 words in, it'll bring you right to any 10 by 10, like 100 square foot area in the world. It's really cool. If I haven't used it a ton, but from what we've been using it for, it's very, very easy to use, very helpful.
Yeah, it's been pretty handy. especially like I had a video where I was out just a little bit longer and I told him where my truck was parked and it wasn't far from the canoe put-in. And at the end of the video, I was paddling towards the put-in and he kind of got a little bit worried. So he came and checked on me and there he was. Like he knew exactly where I was. And this was on Crown Land too. And, you know, I didn't tell him exactly as far as maps and stuff go. Like you can't just give him like a route that you're going to or whatever. So it was really handy in that case. Another app that I use is the Gaia Maps. I find that pretty helpful for, especially because I do a lot of Crown Land stuff. I'll use that in conjunction with the Crown Land Atlas and Google Earth to find trails that I want to go explore, because with Crown Land it's like a mixed bag. You never know what you're going to get. So the more you can do to like plan your trip that way is the better. So Gaia Maps has really helped. You can like mark a location, and then once you're in the area you want to be in, you can start tracking your route, whether you have cell service or not. So it'll track how long you've walked, where you walked, and it, like I said, it works without cell service. You can download maps for that area so that you can use it offline as well. And yeah, it's taken a little bit of navigating to figure it out, but it's a really, really helpful app, especially if you're doing stuff in like Crown Land where there's no self-service and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm posting a couple of my favorite apps that I use, and this is perhaps one of my most favorite ones here. It's called Canada Maps. It's great if you're using your phone as a GPS. You can actually download tiles to your phone. They do have a free version, but I bought the paid version for like $15 for lifetime, and it's a great app. I'll always download when I go on a trip. I'll always download my maps of the area, and I'll download them in like very intense, like so that you can get like 1 to 10,000 or something like that. Like it's a very close follow, and it takes up a lot of memory. But if you use an old cell phone for that, it's awesome. It gets you out of a pickle sometimes. But very good app. Very good app. For the amount of times I've pushed that app, I should be getting commissions off that one. So check it out. Yeah.
If you pay the membership of Gaia GPS, you'll get that too.
Do any of you use CalTopo maps for planning your trips? Anybody?
Hey, Bill.
Not familiar with CalTopo.
Oh. Where does everybody go for their topo maps for planning a trip? Anybody have any resources for that?
I've got a great store in town
that I pay for Gaia.
Stocks paper maps, and I buy paper maps and I waterproof them. I don't mind people having apps and phones, but if that's all you're using, I won't go with you.
Right. I'm trying to think. There is an app that or a website that I use all the time. I think it's called Canada Topo.
Yeah, that's I use that one.
And you can go on there and you can actually download. And I'm fortunate that I own a print shop and I can actually print my own wide format maps and waterproof them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just trying to find the link to that right now. I can't find it though.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, what
I go to personally the World of Maps. Like that's where I get all my maps printed. I don't know if it's just an Ottawa thing though. World of Maps. This is where I get them all printed. They do them all like that, and it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not finding my must be on my other computer. Anyways. Okay. Well, you know what? The one last thing I wanted to talk about as far as planning a trip is having a backup plan. Sometimes things don't go as planned. Maybe not even on the trip itself, but leading up to the trip. Case in example, COVID. Ice out trips last year were a wash for most people. What do you do in the case? What do you do to plan a backup? Marty, do you have any backups and contingency plans?
I always have contingency plans of the route that I put together. You know what I mean? So if I do a big loop, I try to have especially backpacking in the mountains, I try to always have that. I mean, like with COVID, I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I've planned like 6 trips that just didn't happen, and I just moved on and planned the next one. I didn't think much of it. Yeah, it's just what it is. If the thing too is like places like organized places when you're not on, even on Crown Land, like you can, but like Algonquin Park, La Vérendrye, that kind of sites, like you can just go. Like it's not going to be that complicated to come up with, like, if your main route doesn't work out, for you to find an alternative to what you did if you have less time and stuff like that. So they're pretty well organized for that. If you do a river trip, there's only one way, and that's down. So so just plan for appropriate amount of days.
Sure. Kevin, you had a rather extensive contingency plan. You said like double booking one place over another, and then you could always cancel last second.
Yeah, my wife and I have been trying to get to the Rockwall Trail in BC for quite a long time. And one year we were going to fly the kids out and stay with grandparents, leave the kids with the grandparents, and we were going to drive up to the mountains. So we had a lot planned. It wasn't just our trip. It was a lot of other stuff. And I forget what year that was, 2019. It was a terrible fire year in BC. And that park was closed. Kootenay National Park was closed because of the fires. So we booked a completely different trip, completely different set of hotels to stage before and after the trip, different shuttle. So we had 2 trips planned, and at the last minute, we canceled one of them. The park was closed. We couldn't go. And this year, that happened a lot in Northwestern Ontario. We burnt a lot of forest. Woodland caribou right now is probably 80% burned. And so last year, like, it was closed. You couldn't go. A lot of people went to Wabakimi instead. So a little bit easier in provincial parks, at least those ones, to rebook. But some places you really got to book early and lock in twice if you think something's going to go wrong.
I actually, the last trip I did, I had to make a last minute cancellation because of weather. So especially in the spring and in the winter, I'll have a rough idea. Like in that case, just there was an insane amount of snow super early in the year, and I didn't have the gear for it down in the States. So going into that trip, I knew like this is going to be a night before go or no go decision. And if I decide not to go, I've already booked the time off. So in that case, I did have a full backup plan. I hadn't booked anything because in that case I didn't need to, but I did have like, here's the plan if plan A does not work. So for weather and stuff like that, I'll sometimes have a backup plan just because time off can be so difficult to change. At least I don't know how everyone else's jobs are, but it can be difficult for me. So I need to get out somehow. So I need to have a backup plan.
Sure. Brandon, Karina, contingency plans?
It's like cancel or nothing.
Yeah, if weather's really, really bad, we'll be like, okay, let's just move it. But my boss is pretty good to me, so it's not too bad to just, change things up a little bit.
He's self-employed.
Here's Paul Hoy's in a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Fairy tale land. What contingency plans? My trips always goes exactly as planned. Yeah, I think the only time I've ever had to cancel a trip was basically because of COVID. Had a trip planned with a couple of other YouTubers there last spring. Yeah, it was last spring. We were supposed to do Algonquin ice out, and with the park being closed, there's not much you can do. And then with the borders being closed down, there's not much you can do there. So basically the contingency plan was, high five online. This trip's done, right?
Yeah, we also had a trip planned last summer with a couple of other YouTubers, and it also didn't pan out. We were going to get rained out like 20 mils of rain each day, and we're like, man, coming and just enjoy, like pure enjoyment. I don't have a full rain suit or anything like that, and it was going to be cold. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I have yet to cancel a plan for a trip for temperature personally, but I'm like, yeah, it's like, especially for me, it's more the winter trips that I think that, like when we went out the last time we went out to the Adirondacks, it was like minus 35 at night, but we're geared up for it, so it was like, let's go test out the gear. I don't know. That's kind of what we have, but yeah, it is what it is. If you the other thing too is, I mean, heavy temperature is one thing, but things happen. Just go.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think ultimately this show has been basically saying to people, you know what, don't leave it to the last second. Get out there, plan your trips.
Mhm.
Start now. If you haven't already started, start opening some of these books. There's some great resources available to you out there. Start watching more of us YouTubers for our trips, and you know,
And reach out to
retrace our
people.
tracks, right?
Yeah. And reach out to people. Everyone loves talking about their trips. So if you have questions about what they did, just send them a message. Everyone loves talking about what they do.
Yeah.
Very true. I've also done that. If I'm looking at a trip and I know like another YouTuber or whatever has done it, I will reach out to them and say like, what was this like? What was that like? What can I expect here? How long should I go? Stuff like that. They love talking about it, and some really good information.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody besides Michaela, does anybody else on their websites have a resource catalog of trips that they've done in the past? I know like Michaela's
I have
got hers.
some trip
I know Brad
reports.
Jennings has a really good one. Who else?
I have some trip reports on my website. It's just martymorissette.com. It takes so long to do after making the video. Sometimes I just run out of steam, to be honest. But
Yeah.
they're on there, and all it is my GPX track, so you can see like the travel time, the amount of portages or rapids that we did, and where we camped along the way. I don't know if it's of crazy value, but it can be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You know what? YouTube, man. YouTube's got so many different trip resources on there, different trips. And the neat part about it is you can watch it, and if you think it looks good, you can just start planning, right? So that's cool. Anybody have anything they'd like to close with?
I would. I remember, like I haven't been canoe tripping for too long, and I remember it being very daunting trying to like plan a trip. I didn't know where to start. You have all these people telling you this is what you can look at, and you can look at this map and get that map and talk to this person, that person. But like, if you're planning your own trip, it's pretty daunting at first. But just do it. Pick a plan, pick a really short route, pick somewhere that, you know, you think if you had to bail, it wouldn't be too hard to like find your way back out or whatever. Start with something simple. And once you get the bug of like trip planning, you just want to do better trips from then on out. Like you get this little bug and you just can't stop. So for anyone who's feeling overwhelmed with the idea of planning their own trip, just do it.
And FYI, it wasn't actually Karina bailed on the trip because of weather. It was someone else. She's just being nice and didn't want to throw anybody under the bus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for you.
I just want to go around panel here once really quick here because Karina just opened up something in my mind here. For your first trip, and I'll start with Michaela. For your very first canoe trip, were you the planner or were you a tag along? And a tag along, I mean just somebody that was part of the trip.
I was definitely a tag along. I started doing canoe trips when I was like 7 years old with camp. So it wasn't until I was a counselor there that I started actually planning my own trips. So definitely a tag along.
Kevin?
Definitely a tag along. I think most of us start out as tag alongs. It'll be interesting to see if the other two aren't. But once you do get experienced, it's really rewarding to bring someone else who hasn't done canoe tripping along and show them the ropes. And so yeah, no shame in being a newcomer to the game.
No. Karina?
Also tag along. I had a group of friends that did the same trip every year, and oddly enough, it was the same trip that I ended up planning for the newbies I wanted to bring out. I was like, this was an awesome first trip. It got me super excited to go canoe camping and got them into it that way too. It's really short paddle. It was with a big group of people and all fun people, and we did little excursions throughout the day, and that's what got me into canoe tripping.
Sure. How about you, Brandon?
Oh, I'm still a follower. She just tells me where to go.
Yeah.
Well, we do plan them together.
She throws a dart at the map. That's where you go.
It's not complicated, actually.
No, it's like, want to go here? Sure.
Yeah, no, we know what we can do, and it's kind of like, what do we want to do here? and so I've always just been a tag along, but I don't like take full reign on that. I kind of let her do that, but we do it together.
Initially, he started with his family too when he was like really young. So
I started when I was like 13 doing this kind of thing, but it's been a few years.
Yeah.
Since I got back into it.
How about you, Marty?
Yeah, same as everyone else. I mean, like, yeah, I just tagged along. I was 12, my first backcountry adventure trip. So I was lucky to just be a part of people that did it, that wanted to bring me along. But you learn, I don't know, for I would assume for everyone on panel, it's the same. I learned all of my ropes backcountry with like mentors, like whether it was like winter backpacking, whitewater kayaking. It was all having someone that was willing to put in the time, and now it's kind of our turn to do the same thing down. And it's, I don't know, it's just as fun to teach than to push yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I'll go on the record as saying that my very first trip, I was not really a tag along, but like me and a buddy just decided one day we wanted to go canoeing. That was our very first canoe trip. And then ever since then, I've taken the bull by the horns. I've been for 95% of the canoe trips I've ever been on, maybe even higher than that. I've been the one that's been the principal designer, mapper, scheduler, everything. You know what I mean? And it's kind of nice there. I just started hanging out with a few new buddies there that they like to take the bull by the horns, and it's kind of nice. It really is nice, you know, and especially if you know that, you know from experience that they're doing the job right. If that makes any sense, right? And it's kind of nice to have somebody else making the plans, and you say, okay, when do I got to be where?
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, that's all cool. So one last thing
Karina said
before we
it best.
close up shop. What's that, Marty?
I said Karina said it best. Don't overthink it. Keep it small.
Yeah.
Just go, man. Like it's like and start building that confidence. It's, you know, it's not rocket science. It's just a matter of doing it a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, we'll go around table really quick here before the end of the show, then we'll close things up. Michaela, what are you planning for the new year?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Because I'm now in,
You haven't started?
California. Well, I'm trying to figure out this whole California permit system, which is proving to be horrifically stressful. So I've got 3 kind of destinations picked out that are not in the national parks, because I've just decided that's not going to happen. It's just too competitive to get a permit. So I've got like a couple things on the go. I'd like to get back to Ontario for at least one canoe trip, but that'll kind of be dependent on how the border is, because it's just such a pain to cross. So as someone who's like usually plans 6 months in advance, I'm feeling a little anxious about what's going to happen this summer. So we'll see.
Kevin, what do you got on the burner?
I got a list of trips that got canceled because of COVID the last 2 years, and I'd like to hammer off a few of those. They're all with COVID. I don't think I'm going to travel outside of the region, but I live in northwestern Ontario. Quetico is an hour and a half away. Wabakimi's 3 or 4 hours away. So I want to do the Kopka River. That got canceled. I want to go to St. Raphael Provincial Park. That got canceled on me. Kind of want to get back to Wabakimi before it gets really busy again, because there are a lot of outposts up there, and I'd like to travel when there's not a lot of people in the outposts. I'm iffy on woodland caribou. Woodland caribou, like I said, I think about 80% of it burnt this last year. It would be kind of interesting to travel through that, but I don't know if I want to do a long trip through a forest that's all black. So we'll see.
Yep. Karina, Brandon.
Well, kind of true to form for us. We've got so many trips booked, like right down to the detail. We just haven't picked the dart yet. So,
man, are you full?
Only thing we really thought through this year, other than obviously we're going to be doing a lot of stuff, is that we really want to do a repeat on a double solo. Other than that, we're really trying to get to a spot for a winter camping, but it's really, really difficult to get to. It's on a mountain and it's across a river that's not completely frozen ever. So we're really working on that one a little bit, and we've got some cool spots we're looking into. But yeah, we're just going to probably do what we can depending on what the season brings. I'll let Karina finish off.
We very typically fly by the seat of our pants. We definitely have. So there's last year, 2 years ago, I don't know. I went dog sledding at one point, and I became friends with the people who own the, I guess the tours, dog sledding tours. And so we want to do a collaboration with them. We've been talking about this for years now. So I think that's going to happen this year. We're going to do like a midnight tour dog sled, stay out in the hot tents, do something cool that way. So can definitely look forward to that this year. Also have like a couple other things planned that I'm not really sure I could talk about just yet. But other than that, just I want to try out I'm getting some new gear, do some new, find some new spots on Crownland and kind of push myself a little bit more this winter. That's pretty much it.
Marty.
Yeah. So for 2022, kind of the big goal, especially on my channel, it's all about collaboration. So I've been contacting a lot of different YouTubers and just having fun planning all that. So it's like a lot of what I'm trying to focus this year is meet up with a lot of people as much as possible. And there's a lot of good stuff in the works. I don't want to say anything yet because until it's done, it's never really done. And you don't want to get people excited, but for no reasons, but there's going to be some fun stuff. So I'm really excited. In the rivers, obviously this summer, I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the rivers, hopefully completing the Three Sisters. So the Coulonge and the Dumoine on the radar for this summer and those both are collabs with some pretty fun, well-known YouTubers. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get to know more of the niche and more of the people. And then this winter, because I can't go to the States again, I'm just going to be doing a ton of overnights on Crownland, just cooking some good food, sleeping on a good tarp, testing out gear.
Yep. And check out Marty's channel too. He's got some pretty good gear reviews on there, and you've already got a couple collaborations under your belt too. Yeah,
a handful. But this year is like it's almost every outing now.
Good.
So I'm excited. Very excited. Yeah.
Me, I think I'm going to be joining Kevin up there. I've been hoping to do the up Wabakimi there, and been starting to open some books on that, and doing a lot of research on YouTube and other resources. So if it, hopefully that'll work itself out. But it probably might be my August trip if I accomplish that. So
let me know if I can help you out.
Yeah, man. Well, we definitely have to tip a beer on that one, right?
We're going to talk about getting our little girls out sometime.
You should.
Say that again.
We got to talk about getting our girls out for a trip. We've got a 5 and a 6-year-old on, and that was one of our big things this year that we're going to do.
Yeah, that's true. We forgot to mention that.
But we are you talking about the collab I asked you guys to do with the kids, all the kids?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, let's get that happening for sure, man.
I think we're also doing a winter thing at some point, aren't we?
Yeah, we're trying to. We're trying to organize it all.
We're totally up for it. We'll
too much to do in too
little
time. Right?
I just that's the problem, and a lot of good people, like so many good content creators, just like good-hearted people. So it's been fun to just chat with a lot of people.
Cool.
So we'll get to it. It'll be fun for the
collaborations down there. Michaela, Kevin, Marty, Karina, Brandon, thanks very much for joining tonight and maybe shedding a bit of light on this whole planning early for 2022. I wish you all the best out there. Hopefully you get all your plans successfully booked and planned and completed throughout the summer season or winter season, whatever it might be. So hopefully that'll all work out. Appreciate you guys popping in tonight, and we'll catch up here in the green room after the show.
Sounds good.
All righty. Don't forget, everybody, you can check out Michaela's information, Kevin's, Marty's, and I'll get links to Karina and Brandon's 2 YouTube channels in the description below. Just going to drop you guys down, finish off the show. We'll see you in a couple minutes. All righty. Hopefully everybody got something out of this. That was the whole thing. I apologize for all the technical issues there. I'm not quite sure what happened there. As soon as I finished that draw or was working on that draw, it sent something for a tizzy. Anyways, We'll see you all next Tuesday. Don't forget, in case you missed it at the top of the show, links to my first and second part of the Spanish Forest trip are right below here in the description. You'll see that down there. If you haven't already seen part 1, watch it first, obviously, and then go check out part 2. If you've already seen part 1, you get early access to part 2 because I'll be posting that live tomorrow morning. But that's the sneak link to get you in there. Hope you enjoy it. I'm working on part 3 now, which is going to be the real hairy, or one of the real hairy episodes. But yeah, it just keeps getting deeper and deeper, and you'll find that out once you watch the videos. Hopefully you enjoy it. In the meantime, thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. We'll see you next Tuesday evening. And remember, everyone, keep the adventures alive. Have a great week. Cheers.